Smart people do these things, and everyone thinks they're weird. Columbia psychologist Leta Hollingworth spent 30 years studying gifted minds at the far end of the distribution. She found something modern life keeps forgetting. When two people are separated by enough cognitive distance, rapport becomes structurally difficult. Not personally, structurally. Loneliness, at this end of the curve, is geometry. Tonight, 5 behaviors smart people get called weird for, explained through evolutionary psychology, not pop diagnoses. Old souls, this one is for you. Edmund is 62. Retired classics professor Latin, Greek, 30 years teaching college students how to read texts written 2,000 years ago. Walks alone at sunset along the Connecticut shoreline. Most evenings. Last fall, he went to his daughter's dinner party. 12 people. Wine. His son-in-law turned and asked, "How are you, Edmund?" And Edmund heard himself say, "Fine." Then sat there for 90 minutes watching the conversation move along its track without ever touching anything. He left early. Walked home in the fog. The next morning his daughter called, worried. "Dad, was something wrong?" Edmund said, gently, "I wasn't bored. I was reading the room." She didn't know what to do with that answer. Some details have been changed for privacy. Edmund is drawn from patterns I've seen across many men I've known. Here's the frame for what's about to follow. The evolutionary psychologists Leta Hollingworth and John Tooby wrote a sentence in the 1990s that has been quietly circulating in research literature ever since. Our modern skulls house a Stone Age mind, 2 million years on the African savanna. Group size capped around 150. Surplus stimulation didn't exist. Conversations had stakes. Questioning the elder kept the tribe alive. Then, around 10,000 years ago, the world reorganized itself completely. The mind did not reorganize with it. So the behaviors a 2026 dinner party reads as weird going quiet, refusing to perform fine, storing the wrong layer of information. Those behaviors are calibrated correctly. Just not to the room you're standing in tonight. Here's the first behavior. You forget names, not because you weren't listening. There is a well-known asymmetry in memory research. Proper names are stored differently from meaning. They are surface labels with no relational hook. They are the easiest thing in the language to forget. What's harder to forget, what your brain stores instead, is the meaning underneath. Tone. Posture. What's not being said. Edmund forgets first names. He remembers what people are protecting. In a tribe of 150 people you'd known your whole life, names were redundant. You knew the man. You didn't need the label. In a modern conference room of strangers, names are everything. So your brain looks broken. It isn't. It is storing the wrong layer, which is to say, the deeper layer, meaning over labels. That's the first thing the room misreads about you. Second, behavior. You hate small talk. People assume this means you are cold or above it. Neither. Your brain just does not have a setting for low-stakes verbal placeholder. Here is the absurdity. A tribe in the Pleistocene was not talking about the weather. There was no weather conversation. The weather was happening to you. Now you are at a backyard barbecue, and the closest match to evolutionary stakes is so. Watching the game tonight? Your brain reads no signal and concludes the room is empty. It is not. It is just calibrated for a different magnitude of conversation than the small talk circuit was built for. You are tuned for stakes that mostly are not here, and the room reads that signal as distance. Third, behavior. Solitude restores you when conversation drains you. The mechanism is not preference. It is nervous system. A 2023 Stanford study by Balban, Spiegel, and Huberman in Cell Reports Medicine, peer-reviewed, randomized, controlled, found one breathing pattern outperformed mindfulness meditation for mood and physiological arousal. It is called cyclic sighing. Try it once right now while we talk. Sit a little taller. Breathe in through your nose. Now, on top of that breath, take a second small sip of air. Then exhale slowly through your mouth, longer than the inhale. That is one cycle. Notice your shoulders drop. Old souls do this naturally when alone, when there is finally nothing to perform for. Your nervous system was waiting. You were not avoiding people. You were waiting for the inhale you could not take in a room full of small talk. If you have made it this far, you are the kind of old soul I make these videos for. Subscribe. I post a new one every week, and they are meant to be watched together. They build on each other. Now, here is the part I have not told you yet. Before we go further, let me be honest about something. These traits have a cost. They still do. They cost 2 men I know their first marriages. They cost a third man 20 years of feeling broken in the only family he had. They cost most of the men watching this decades of suspecting something was wrong with them when what was wrong was that the room did not have the vocabulary. I am not going to pretend the reframe pays the bill. The bill is real. What we are doing tonight is just naming what it bought you. Fourth behavior. You change your mind quickly when new evidence arrives. People around you read this as inconsistency. It is the opposite. In 1982, the psychologists John Cacioppo and Richard Petty defined a construct they called the need for cognition, the tendency to engage in and enjoy thinking. Their later work found something useful. Men high in this trait do not bind their identity to their current positions. The position is a current best estimate, held until something better arrives. When the evidence changes, the estimate changes. That feels like weakness to a room that confuses certainty with intelligence. It is not weakness. It is updating. The room reads weak signal. You are reading deep signal. Fifth behavior. You question what the room agrees on. Not to be difficult, because the question keeps surfacing on its own and will not stay submerged. Here is where I want to be direct with you. The era we are living in is hostile to this. Modern offices are built for execution, not examination. Modern social life rewards rapid consensus. Modern attention runs on dopamine pulses that punish the slow question. And men with this calibration are told, over and over, just take it. Stop overthinking. Be a team player. They were wrong. The room was wrong. The era forgot how to read this trait. That is not a debt you owe. In the Pleistocene, the man who questioned the elder was not difficult. He was useful. Sometimes he kept everyone alive. Pull the five together. You forget names because you store meaning. You hate small talk because you are tuned for stakes. Solitude restores you because your nervous system runs at a higher line. You update your beliefs because your identity is not your position. You question because the question is your contribution. Theodore 54, civil engineer, restoring a 1967 Mustang in his garage on weekends, does these things every day. His coworkers stopped inviting him to lunch 5 years ago. He did not notice for a long time. When he did, he realized he did not miss it. The garage on Saturday is where his mind opens. Theodore is not weird. He is calibrated correctly to a world that has not yet caught up with him. Your calibration is correct. Just to a world the era forgot. If any of these five hit you somewhere real tonight, do not just nod and scroll. In the comments, type the number 1 through 5 that landed hardest. 1 for forgetting names while remembering substance. 2 for hating small talk. 3 for the breath you could not take in a crowded room. 4 for the time someone called you inconsistent and meant it as an insult. 5 for the question that will not submerge. I read everyone. Honestly, that is where I learn the most about who is actually watching tonight. Nothing here is a clinical diagnosis. If you are sitting with something heavier than a video can hold, talk to someone licensed. A lot of old souls eventually do. This is the part where, in my private life, the men I know who recognize themselves here usually go quiet on the phone for a few seconds. It is okay if you just went quiet too. You are not too much. You are calibrated to something the room does not measure. There are more old souls out there than the room ever lets on, and many of them will be in the comments tonight. If you haven't yet subscribed, and you want one of these every week, the button is right where you'd expect it. They build on each other. On the screen now, 2 videos that go deeper. One is the 5 things deep thinkers refuse to explain. Many of you have asked for that one. The other is the 5 traits of men who feel distant from everyone. Pick whichever speaks to you tonight.